Welcome to Betrayal Trauma Recovery, BTR.org. I'm Anne. I'm sure you remember what it was like when you were searching for help, maybe for your husband, hoping to find the right program or therapist. That's why I started podcasting. I supported my husband through 7 years of pornography addiction recovery, and not one therapist during that time told me I was experiencing emotional and psychological abuse and sexual coercion. I didn't want any other woman on the planet to be in the dark. If you're like the majority of my listeners, you're experiencing the type of abuse that's invisible and difficult to wrap your head around. Your husband is using porn or having affairs or lying to you, and you're getting the same bad advice about how to improve communication or your relationship. If you need support from women who totally understand, check out our daily group session schedule at btr.org/group. We'd love to see you in a session today. One simple, anonymous way to help spread the word is to click, follow, or subscribe to the Betrayal Trauma Recovery podcast on your favorite podcasting app. While you're there, every 5-star rating helps make this podcast more visible and will help save other women from getting the wrong kind of help, like a couple program that will make this type of abuse worse. For those of you who follow or subscribe to this podcast, thank you so much. Your support means so much to me. So a few years ago, I was doing an interview for the podcast. There was sort of this Freaky Friday situation, and the guest started interviewing me. And so I wanted to replay a portion of that episode for you today.
What are some of the steps that you're taking and have taken that have helped you just regain your own sense of balance?
Yeah, I'm a writer. Writing has been healing for me. I wrote every single abuse episode that I could think of, every instance of gaslighting, every instance of emotional or psychological abuse to help me sort out what was real, what wasn't real. It was like 100 pages. It was crazy. When I started using that as a draft to write a book, because I want to give people really concrete examples, I was like, ugh, I was so sick of my own story. And I thought that was a really good sign. So instead of thinking like, I have to prove that he was abusive, which is how I felt before. Now that I'm healed more, I don't need to process that anymore. Now I'm just deleting like huge sections out of it, because now I'm like, which examples will help other women?
And you don't have to prove why it was so crazy making for you.
Yeah, totally. My no contact boundary is actually the most helpful thing to me, because any interaction with him is just insane. Focusing on my own physical health has been good. I've always been really athletic, and everything went out the window. The moment I married him, I didn't ski anymore. I didn't mountain bike anymore. I didn't row anymore. I didn't do any of the things that I really love doing. And now I'm getting back to that. So I'm doing yoga every day, and I'm weightlifting again, and I may work up at the ski resort the weekends when my kids are gone. So I'm getting back to myself.
I love that phrase, by the way, coming back to myself.
Yeah. And part of that was the abuse. And also part of it was that I had 3 kids under the age of 6, and getting out of the house was really hard. And they're getting older now. My youngest was 11 months old when he was arrested. Time has helped a lot too. It's taken a lot of time to process. In fact, I just went through a pretty hard period. I went off my antidepressant, and I decided I wasn't going to emotionally eat anymore. So there's about a month where I was crying every day. I mean, really bad. In the shower, at church, finding a room where no one was, locking myself in there, sitting on the floor, like full on bawling my head off about everything that had happened, because I didn't have the crutch of food anymore, and I didn't have my antidepressant. So there were some feelings that I hadn't quite felt. My sister was getting very worried about me. So was kind of everyone else. I was like, guys, I'm going to be okay. I just need to feel this right now. I'm not going to eat popcorn. I'm not going to eat Oreos. I'm not going to take an antidepressant. I just need to feel these feelings that I was not ready to feel years ago, because it was too much. It would have killed me if I would have had to feel everything all at the same time. So I used an antidepressant for years, and I ate a lot, and I gained a lot of weight, which is fine. Both of those things are fine. Do it if that helps you. Now I'm stronger. Knowing even if you're making forward progress, be gentle with yourself. Because women, at least in my situation, we have all kinds of problems. We have financial problems. What are we going to do for work?
A woman working with 3 children that are young on her own. I mean, a round of applause for all the single working moms out there. It's so hard to do that alone. And then on top of that, you've got these multiple betrayal traumas that impact you emotionally, psychologically, that also impact you physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were coming from therapists. My clergy took his side. and friends, family. When I say family, I mean his family. This is not a small thing.
No, it isn't. For me, 5 years out, I was still hurting. It was like the pain would come rushing forward with all of the fear, insecurity. So it's a long process. I love that you gave yourself the freedom and permission to just feel your feelings.
Mm-hmm. Because I knew that feeling these emotions is important for me now. Women are really strong and they're really smart, can think rationally through those decisions and make the right decision for you. And one of them might be, oh, I'm feeling really good, but now I realize my brain is imbalanced and now I need to go on an antidepressant.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's there for a reason, and it wouldn't work if we didn't need it. Some women need it right away because of the trauma symptoms that they're having. They can't eat, I can't sleep, the constant worry, fear, anxiety. And I've also seen fear get women through that period because of all the adrenaline, cortisol that's pumping through their system. It kind of keeps them on high alert and they're able to get through the crisis. But a year or 2 years out, they kind of notice they're slipping into a depression and then need some support at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I am not anti-medication. I just want to make that very clear to everybody. Please go on it if you need it. And this is where I'm at right now.
Well, kudos to you for all the hard work you've done and for the place that you're in. BTR is taking what harmed you and turning it around to provide support and encouragement and resources for other hurting women out there. When I went through this, I never really bought into the codependency co-addict model. It has impacted many women and not for good. When I was going through this, BTR helped so much.
BTR doesn't victim blame. What the current pornography recovery field misses is the abuse, first of all, but also this bigger, wider discussion of misogyny and the Me Too movement and feminism. Like, you might be going to a therapist who buys into codependency, not realizing it's a form of victim blaming, which is also misogynistic. So it's so much bigger than just, does he look at porn or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's one reason I wanted to start BTR, was to talk about all of these really important issues in one place, because I was not seeing that in your typical 12-step group or a typical therapist's office. Oftentimes traditional therapy that tries to get to the heart of quote unquote why he doesn't feel loved or whatever, rather than recognizing, wait a minute, he is loved. He just can't feel love because of his misogynistic attitude and his feelings of entitlement. And those aren't going away. Like, the more therapy he does, the more he feels like he's a victim. And so I always like to warn people, you don't want to give an abuser a shovel by having him go to therapy where he creates a story for why he has an abusive character, because he's just going to dig his trench even deeper. Because we see all the time, therapy fuels his entitlements and his feelings of being a victim. It makes it worse for the wife. That's why at BTR, helping women be emotionally safe is the top priority. And that could look like many different things.
Right. This is a woman who has been violated and has no sense of safety. So safety is of the utmost importance.
Yeah, and at BTR, that's actually the bulk of what we see, that therapists don't assess emotional safety first. And if they do, and the woman isn't emotionally safe, they propose things like, well, share your feelings with the abuser, or let's communicate with him better to see if we can get to safety. And that is very dangerous. It's similar to the civil court system. A friend of mine is going through divorce with an extremely abusive man. She can't talk to him without being psychologically abused, blamed, that sort of thing. And in court, the judge said, look, you guys are both professional people. Work it out.
Oh, gee.
And there's no way she can work it out with him. It's impossible. And so a therapist might think, okay, you both seem intelligent. You both seem nice. Let's work together. And you're like, we can't coordinate or cooperate about anything without me being harmed in the process. And every time I try to communicate or resolve something, I end up getting gaslit, taken advantage of. So many people, lawyers, court people, clergy, therapists, they just don't have safety as the top priority. And that has to be the top priority when any type of emotional or psychological abuse is involved.
Absolutely. We can't have a healthy relationship with an unhealthy individual.
Thank you. That was fun to be interviewed for a little bit.
And thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy and delight. I feel like I could talk another couple hours with you. Well, thank you so much. And I just really want to applaud you for all your work and how you're giving back to women through this podcast. And kudos to you for writing your book and giving up buckets of popcorn. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. If this podcast is helpful to you, please help us reach other women by following or subscribing and giving us a 5-star rating. Thank you for helping other women find us. If you've already purchased a copy of my book, Trauma Mama, Husband Drama, please circle back and give it a 5-star rating. A lot of women are searching for books about betrayal trauma on Amazon, and rating Trauma Mama will help them find this podcast, which is free to everyone. Your donations keep this podcast going. Go to our website, btr.org, scroll to the bottom, click on Support the BTR Podcast. And until next week, stay safe out there.